The Triple Trio with Hutchi, Richo and RS Dye. It's Hong Kong racing with the blinkers off.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new edition of the Triple Trio. We're racing on Sunday at Sha Tin. It's day one of the championships, which is simulcast in Hong Kong as well. That's in Sydney. And our star power guest was a superstar Derby winner over in Hong Kong. It is a Hall of Famer in Australia. And Darren Beadman joins us as our very special guest. Hutchi, welcome to the show and another good week by you. Well done, young man.
Thank you very much. We had a great weekend. Yeah, it's great to have Darren on the show, isn't it? You know you're going well when you make the Hall of Fame and you're still riding.
Yeah.
That's how good he was. And you know you're going well well done to Shane as well. Shane, welcome in. Your best got up last week and Dragon Pride, nice ride from Zach. And he was actually went out quite a nice price as well. Welcome to the show, Shane.
Yeah, well, he firmed up late. He was $5.50, but firmed up. And I think this was one of yours, wasn't it, Clint? He looked like winning, and he did.
He kept going nicely. Excellent fighter. It was a good enough performance. He didn't go that quick. But no, we had a good day on Sunday. The midweek meeting was a smaller play. We broke basically pretty flat, but very close to a good day, but it was still a good week.
It was competitive and big prices early, wasn't it? It's hard to find a winner early on in the night on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, the track was a little bit affected, rain affected, but look, I think ultimately most of the better horses won on the night that should have probably.
We're going to burst out of the gates in a moment. We've got Sweet in defeat, Genius or Slaughter, Darren Beadman, then of course try to find a stack of winners on what is going to be a Super Sunday at Sha Tin. But first, let's burst out of the gate. And as we burst out of the gate, Shane, we'll start with you. A stable that is absolutely flying is Michael Cheng's stable.
Yeah, 3 winners last week and another one. Nearly made it 2 on Wednesday night, I think, didn't he, Clint? The first race just got beat. But last week he had 3 winners, and this horse is really going well. I liked him a lot last week. He can go higher. Ching, he just keeps winning.
Yeah, I thought it was he's a progressive type. G Happy Together was very unlucky in that race. We'll
should have won
a little bit more about that. Yeah, he should have won.
I think it was the first time for nearly a decade that he'd had 3 winners, Michael Cheng.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Michael, because Michael's obviously got to get some numbers up for his license. So hopefully he can continue that momentum. And it was also a pretty good week, I suppose, for Frankie Law. He had a treble, champion trainer, during the week on the Wednesday. Gee, Frankie's record on the dirt's great. This horse was a good price. Shane Adios, he had good form around him. The race was always going to set up nicely, and he's actually gone on to win. And I thought he'd start favourite, but he ended up starting quite lucrative odds in the end.
Yeah, I found that a hard race. I stayed out. I didn't like that race. There was too many going well. There was a lot of pace in that race, so I was looking for something back, but I didn't bet in the end. I just said, let's just watch it.
And as we just zoom around the globe, on Tuesday night I was in Sydney for the launch of the championships, and wherever I go, Archbuster, I take my camera with me because I was at the closing ceremony of the Asian Racing Conference, and I saw our man Winfried Engelbrett Bushkus dancing away. Yes. Well, all of a sudden I saw Yoshida Yahagi, the famous Japanese trainer. Check out his moves.
He's got some serious moves.
Look,
I love this.
And not only that, the commitment, Shane, to the dance moves was fantastic.
I've got no hope of competing against any of them. Be an embarrassment for me.
There's Winfried. I mean, Winfried just totally dominated. And I love the fact that we've added courtesy of Twitter and not used the vision that I captured.
I think it's magnificent.
I think Winfried's got it.
Some of the moves from the Joel Gents and Yoshida getting right into it. So what an amazing performance.
That is fantastic. And keep your eye on those Japanese horses. Don't worry. They're going to be a big factor when we get to the championship.
Yeah, and it's that time. Well, Easter's that time of year. You know what else happens in Easter as well, Richard? The stall gift. And you'd like this one, Shane.
Don't.
The stall gift. Now we're going to wind back the clock to our host.
No,
I wonder if watched it many a time.
And for those overseas that are not sure, this is a handicap event,
right?
And of course, our host managed to win the biggest sprint in Australia.
It's only been 850.
How much did you get for this, Richo?
What's that?
How much did you win for it?
First prize was $30,000 back then. And Shane, the betting fluctuations, there was only 2 bookmaker fluctuations. They put up 30 to 1 and the next fluctuation was 10 to 1 on.
That's you could probably relate to that, Shane.
Yeah. I remember the first year they put up prices for the Golden Whip, it was called, over the 4 meetings of the Rosehill Carnival, right? And a friend of mine had about 30,000 on me, and I went from 9 to 2 into 2s on before the first race, and they wouldn't take any more bets, he said. I said, just put as much as you on. I'll ride the 4 meetings, I'll ride every race, and I'll win it for sure.
And you'll be up there next week, I'm supposed.
Very much looking forward to it. Yes, it'll be on the screens of 7, so that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's check out who made the file. Sweet in defeat.
They're off, and Sugar missed the start by 4 lengths. Then Dublin Star, Sugar fast buck, smart leader. Oversubscribed, lunges at the post, missed. Sugar, that's a sweet win for Alfie Chan.
Sweet in Defeat is the name of our black bookers. And before we add more into the Sweet in Defeat file, Hutch, let me just to blow a little wind up your skirt, if you don't mind, because the Sweet in Defeat, as uncomfortable as it makes you sound, the Sweet in Defeat file has been humming along at the moment. I give you a Supreme Lucky at $2.10.
He's a
who
nice
lands.
You got to stick with him as well.
We'll stick with him. Really love the push you gave us for Speedy Smarty. And we got a really good price for him at around the $4.45 mark. And then Sylvester de Souza landed a nice one for us as well. So things are going well.
Yeah, with Hava Nagila, who actually we made a Sid behind his run behind Ching, who obviously came out and won again. So, no, it was a good week, and our best got up there. This was Hava Nagila winning on Wednesday. I reckon, Shane, do you think this is the kind of horse with Frankie that'll just sort of keep going on with the job? He's really hit his straps of late, this horse. I think there's more wins in store.
I like this horse a lot, Clint. That was my only bet last night. 2 starts ago, I thought a should he won. He didn't get the right ride in a Happy Valley race, and he looked as though he ran ordinary. I backed up on him. I didn't think he'd beat Chang, but he was about $10, $12, so I backed him. He ran second, and it was a really good run. He's going higher, that horse. His runs have been really good.
Who goes into the file this week?
So this week, we've got a horse called Beauty Inspire. Now, they dropped him out as we expected the other day for John Size. He was 3 wide almost without cover at the back for Zach, but he got home really well. Some of the best closing sections at the meeting. It was an eye catcher. I think John Size will stick to 1,200, but Zach won't need to be that far back next time. If they draw Barry, he'll be in the first third of the field, and I reckon he'll win. Happy Together should have won, and I think he can come out and win. And Gummy was our best on Wednesday. Gee, that race rated well with me. They've gone enormous. I thought he'd go forward, but unfortunately just missed the kick a little bit. He's Happy Together, and as you said, Shane, he just unfortunately couldn't find a clear path in the straight.
No, should have won. Actually, Gummy last night looked as though he was going to win at the 200 for sure, Clint. I thought you were home. No, this horse should have won this day. He had no luck. He's racing well. Mile looks as though it's his best distance, and he'll be winning again soon.
That horse in front of him was a pest the whole way. He still, when he finally got out, he still kept running in behind him.
It's not Happy Together at the moment, but let's hope it ends in a happy manner. But that's the Sid file.
And then we add in Gummy. So we've got 3 there: Beauty Inspire, Happy Together, and Gummy. Always a time now for the Hong Kong jockeys to get nervous.
They sweep for home now. Beander Cross has come very wide. Beander Cross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring Tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold Tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
Time for the Hoff to shine, the Hall of Famer. He casts his eye over all the rides, not only here, but now and then abroad. Genius or Slaughter, Shane, we're in your hands. Who's the genius?
I thought this was a good ride. This is a ride, how you ride a horse properly. This was flying high. Now, he could have raced a lot closer. We mentioned him, Clint and I, last week, how he's racing better, ridden back. Now, he can be 4 lengths closer, 5 lengths. Matthew Chadwick rode him, who's riding extremely well, really, really well. He's thinking in races, but he never moved on him out of the gates and let him get back because he realises now that this horse has to be held up. And he's got a run of about 150 metres, but when he goes, he can make up 4 or 5 lengths if he's ridden quiet. Now, if he's ridden forward, he can't do it. He weakens. So they've worked out how to ride him, and I thought that was an extremely good ride. And we actually brought it up last week, you and I, Clint, didn't we? How to ride him,
did.
How he's better off back a bit. And Matthew did exactly that. I thought it was a very good ride.
Yeah, it was a good race for us. We were on first and second in that race.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be, he's riding really well, Matthew. That, as Shane said, he's just thinking, I think more, he's probably being a little bit more patient and thinking about where he wants to be in some of his races, even though he didn't give a lot away to us when we interviewed him a couple of weeks ago.
I liked him.
Well,
he found some of my questions a bit simple.
He needed some more difficult questions, Shane, I reckon.
He's riding well. I think he
Shane
watches
loves
the show anyway, which is good.
He loves it. Hey, mate, what jockey needs to pull up their socks?
Well, last week, since you were holidaying again, we had this other bald-headed bloke on here called Terry. It seems everyone's losing hair and going bald on the show. Good bloke. Did a very good job, Richo, so you'd want to be very careful. I wouldn't be missing too many meetings, mate. You'd be on the outer, right?
You're dead
and
right, my friend.
He said, I wished I had this segment because there's so many slaughters in Australian racing every week. So I was watching the races on Saturday. I'm going to leave the Hong Kong boys alone. This is just disgraceful and a slaughter. And this jockey rides well, Ryan Maloney. And why the stewards didn't even have him in's got me beat. Now, there was only one horse that could lead in this race, and that's him. But he lets the other horse go. There were 3 chances, the leader, him, and something back. He beat the leader last start. Now, I know his horse might struggle at 1,400, but you watch at the 600 metres, he's pulling back, and I don't understand why. It's got me beat. He gave this race to the winner. Now, everyone after the race saying, he rated the winner well and it was a great ride. It wasn't. It was that Ryan Maloney here sat off and look at him there pulling and he's dragging it back and they've gone slow and he's still coming back. And now, this is the most important part of the race, the 600. You should be going forward. The other horse is the horse to beat. He's had an easy run. He meets you 1.5 kilos better for beating him last time. And now the race is over. How can you beat the second favourite in the race when he's had an easy lead? It's impossible. And now he thinks he's going to quicken and come home in 29 seconds or something. I don't know what they run. I think it was 34. It's just impossible. He missed the boat. And I thought, watching it, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm saying to the TV, go forward, go forward. But he didn't. So I'm leaving the Hong Kong boys alone. And that one just stuck out like anything to me. And they didn't even question him. I looked at the steward's report afterwards, Clint. There was nothing even mentioned.
I'm glad that I can feel the frustrations and obviously Shane's just watching it, but the frustration, he's talking like a lot of us punters are watching when we're watching it these days.
Well,
That should have won for sure. That should have 100% won that.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. It's and when you're watching those, you just shake your head, don't you?
Well, I backed the leader, Tamerlane, and I said on Channel 7 after it, I cannot believe how they gifted the race to him.
Yeah.
But tell me this, how didn't this, I might be wrong, but I I read the steward's report and all they said he was held up a bit at the 350. Why wouldn't they question him like anything over that ride?
But do they ever question tactics like that? Like, why didn't you put pressure on?
I know, Richo, because there was a question mark over his 1,400 metres, right? But on paper, he was the only leader in the race on paper when I looked at it. So when the other horse went out, now, if you watched James McDonald on Lucky Swears 2 weeks ago against California Spangle, now he sat 2 lengths behind him, which was perfect. But at the 700, he started to get closer. At the 600, he's 3/4 of a length off him, and at the turn, he's half a length to a neck off him, ready to pounce because the other horse had a soft lead. That was the opposite. At the 600, when he should be going forward a little bit, he's coming back and checking it and letting a horse get up and around him, which is the worst thing you can do. But I know that he would have thought that he's trying to save him to run the 1,400, But in those circumstances, it just goes out the window. You can't be doing that.
Paid up, proud and passionate. Shane Dye coming right at you for genius or slaughter. Well, what's better than one Hall of Famer on our show? 2. Star power. Darren Beadman up next. Well, we're adding some serious star power to the Triple Trio. Hutch, when we think about Australian Racing Hall of Fame legends, there's a lot of superstars, isn't there? But there's only Dazzler. Yeah. Dazzler is the only one that you just say that name and everyone goes, smiles and nods. The great Darren Beadman.
Yeah, absolutely. There's icon. We've got one on the show regularly, and it's great to have Darren in here. And how about having 2 of them on the one show as well? How good is it?
It's going to be magnificent, mate. I'm just keen to get out of their way and let them have a chat. Darren Beadman, welcome to the Triple Trio, mate. It's a great pleasure and honour for us to have you on, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Very good. I'm in Group 1 company here. Boy, dead set weight for Agefield here.
Mate, we're going to have a lot of fun, mate. Can we start before I unleash Shane and you to have a good chat? Tell us about your experience.
How long have we got when Billy unleashes?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I don't stop, boys. I could keep going.
I'll ask you quickly, how do you reflect on 250 winners in your time in Hong Kong?
It was... actually, I went to Hong Kong at the right time of my career. I was stable rider for John Moore, and we had 6 or 8 Ferraris in the garage. It was just nice riding really nice horses in big races over there. And it's a very unique place, but I was very fortunate in the sense that I had a good stable to ride for, and I could just really focus on that, and I didn't have to search for any outside rides, whereas you got to be very hungry and you got it. I've seen the other boys there. I've seen Shay when he was there, and Zach and Joe and Dougie White and Brady Preble. They're hungry. Like it's a shark infested pool there at track work. They're all hovering around, and I could just sit back and just chip away.
You say that, Darren, but I mean, everywhere in every sort of place that you rode and you were connected with the stable, you had unbelievable success.
Yes, yeah. No, it was actually. We actually had a great combination, John and myself. He was telling me that, the statistics there that we used to hold 33% of the pool. So we had a very good following, with the locals and the punters. And, I was able to bring and share some of the gifts and what I picked up off Hawksy and Bart Cummings and, I was able to take that over there with me and put that into his stable.
Shane, tell us about the first time you saw Darren Beadman. And I went and did some research, and your careers just intertwined all the way throughout the world.
Yeah, we were very similar because I arrived in 85 and Darren had won the Golden Slipper, I think, in 84 on Inspired. So he was a star apprentice. Very good-looking kid, had the gift of the gab. What I say, he could see. We don't get people in racing now that are superstars outside of James McDonald. I think Darren Gauci was a superstar apprentice. I think Darren Beadman was a superstar apprentice, but he was also a superstar jockey. And his biggest attribute in riding was he rode horses where they should be ridden, whether they were forward, back, and he thought in races. He was a very good thinker in races. He was naturally very strong also. He wasn't polished. He had his own style, but that didn't matter. And he just looked good on horses, and horses run for him.
If it's any consolation, Darren, and he's mentioned you weren't polished, don't worry. He told Ryan Moore a similar thing as well recently.
No, when I say that, he knows what I mean. Like, he's not like a Frankie Dettori or a Malcolm Johnson, how they're just fluent and just perfect. And even Darren Gauci was perfect on a horse. I never was. I don't. But horses run for different people, and they run for Darren Beadman for sure. And he was great throughout a race. I always used to love following him and just sitting in behind him because I knew I'd always get the right run.
Was there good rivalry between you two?
I was never jealous of Darren, never at all. Darren was never a threat to me, and I'm sure I was never a threat. Well, I wouldn't have been a threat to Darren because we had our own people we rode for. I think we really respected each other. I respected Darren as a jockey. No risk about that because I knew how good he was.
Darren, tell us your version of that. Was there good rivalry between you two?
Oh, there was some great rivalry there, especially on the racetrack, and we, as Shane said, we had the utmost, I had the utmost respect for Shane, off the track and on the track. And he was a very fierce competitor. And, I remember fighting out, I think it might have been the Flight Stakes, I think it was. I think you rode Assertive Lass and I rode Dashing Eagle. It was some really, really good finishes. And, it was, I think it was, yeah.
And very different personalities, D. Beadman. I reckon RS Dye, when he was at the height of his game, was a pretty cocky young man.
Yeah, as Shane said, he came over from New Zealand in 1985, and it wasn't, people sort of had their way of chasing rides, but Billy got the nickname when he first came over here as Fingers because he was always on the phone. That was his first nickname, Fingers. Do you remember that, Billy?
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something about that. In New Zealand, when I was apprentice, right, I used to get the paper. There was no faxes, and you didn't know what was in going to race on a Saturday. But the Tuesday on the paper, it used to come at the stables at 4:30. I used to get the paper and sit there and have a look at the nominations in this paper in the Herald Sun. And I used to know what every horse was, and I used to go to the track and I knew what horses would be in. I just chased rides. That's what you did in New Zealand.
Well, you brought something to Australia that wasn't, he really brought something to racing that wasn't here. And so that, his nickname was Fingers, and then he turned up on Derby Day with a white, most jockeys back then, except for Malcolm Johnson, were pretty, calm and casual, but he turned up there in a white leather suit, and that's how he got the nickname Billy Idol, because he looked like Billy Idol and he walked with the enclosure.
You've made it when you've got about 5 different nicknames in your life, don't you?
Doc Chapman and John Danoon, they were I don't know whether Shane had any input in it, but they bought in the Lycra colours, and then so Shane took it to another level again, as he has in the past, and he got Lycra silks pants, and it looked a little bit like what was that 100-metre runner that
Matt Shervington,
yeah, he was a Matt Shervington of racing.
Well, it just made sense to me, see, because if you have a look at the cyclists and anyone to do with speed, it's always Lycra for wind assistance. Yeah. So I was happy to wear them because I thought it's an advantage to me, as was ringing people for rides an advantage to me. So any advantage I could get, I always got. Don't worry about that. And yet no one would wear Lycra. I couldn't work out, why won't you wear Lycra if it's going to be an advantage?
Mate, some of us just aren't as fortunate as you. No,
so I used to wear Lycra in a different life, but it was always black. I wouldn't wear white Lycra. That shows too much. RS Dye.
RS Dye being always the showman.
Oh, that is brilliant.
It had nothing to do with being the showman Lycra, and that's honest. On my 2 sons' life, it made sense that it was wind resistant and it could help you in a race. And that's why I wore it. And that's being truthful, Darren. It had nothing to do with being a showman or anything like that.
Right. It's a great alibi, Billy. Great alibi.
On my 2 sons' line.
Darren, just quickly, I know we've got a bit to get through, and I know time's short for you, but we've got some vision here of Collection winning the Hong Kong Derby back in the day for you, and we've had the Derby run recently, and this was one of the rides. What we don't see in the replay, and it's a bit grainy, is obviously you took off down the back straight, and you were well back in the field, but, in a big race to make the move like you did, that was it was a special moment. It was a special moment too post-race because you got a good embrace out of John Moore as well, which wasn't the usual thing.
No, he savaged a horse in the race before, about 100 metres after the start, and he had to trial at Happy Valley a week before, so he had a bit of an unorthodox prep going into it. but he drew a bit awkward in the Derby, and I just rode him quiet, and just because he didn't like being around other horses. And then when Jeff Lloyd took off, I just got on his back and went, and they weren't going that quick. They normally pull up when they come into the back straight there, and it suited me nicely just to sit out 3 and 4 deep and just circle the field and be outside the leader turning for home. And he had the class, obviously, to and the form to be able to sort of handle the runners he was against. But I remember Simeon rode Casper's horse in the race. It ran second, and about an hour after the race, he come up to me and he said, "Good ride." I can't say it in French, but good ride. Would have you went around if Jeff Lloyd went? I said, "Of course, I was always going."
Hey, Darren, there's some incredible names there that you've just mentioned. How different was it? I can remember back to when Bart took Catalan opening over there, and you won there, and you defeated Mick Canaan. Some of the great names in Hong Kong racing. How much did it change from back in '97 to then winning the Derby? The whole landscape of Hong Kong racing.
Yeah, it was really gaining great momentum, from the mid to late 90s, and it's just got bigger and better every year over there. And it was where every jockey wanted to ride in the world there at that stage, because one, the prize money, and two, you only rode twice a week, and you could really focus on the horses and the jockeys and that you were riding against, but great riders, and you could learn so much riding against the likes of the Sumions and the Cananes and those type of riders, the world class riders that would come over.
Darren, just tell me one thing. I did a story for the paper the other day about these James McDonald riding midweeks. What on hell is he doing riding midweeks when it's carnival time? Why would James Cummings put him on midweek? If he was riding for me, I'd say, go home. I don't want you near the track, near a horse. I want you here Saturday to ride all these Group 1 races. I understand riding all year midweek, but not when it's carnival time. I never used to, you know that. There was no way you could get me on a horse midweek when it was carnival time. Why are they doing it now?
Well, I'm thankful that you did, Billy, because when I rode 162 winners Metropolitan, you didn't ride Wednesdays, and you might have been a threat to beat me. So you gave me a chance.
Yeah, but Darren, when I hadn't won a premiership and I said I'm going to win it this year, what happened?
I'll let you win it, mate. Yeah.
Okay. I know someone that was trying very hard. I didn't actually try to win premierships, mate. But one year I really did, and I won it. I know that. But no, okay, so take 2 weeks ago, he gets suspended midweek. Shouldn't have been in the slipper, but luckily through technicalities he was. Have a look yesterday. He rides yesterday, a bad meeting, wet track. A horse nearly died on him, and he had to jump off it, and he could have broke his leg or had a serious fall or anything. Why is he riding? I don't get it.
I understand what you're saying, Billy, and I think that when, obviously you just went, nah, I'm not riding at all, whereas I was riding for the Inghams at the time and Hawksey, and, I was their stable rider, and so, but I used to pick and choose my rides. I'd only have, 3 or 4 rides, but J-Mac, the day he got time on the Kenzo track, it was in the last race in a benchmark 72, he's trying to get blood out of a stone, something that wasn't there, but you've just got to be so much on the ball, and you can just throw caution to the wind. And I understand what you're saying, and you can still, I think you can still ride Wednesdays, but you just got to be very, very selective in what you ride.
Talking about feature meetings, and Shane's referencing the carnival, this Derby Day comes up, and as soon as I think about the Derby, Darren, I want to go down memory lane, one of my favourite horses and one of the greatest ever derbies, and Shane's part of it. He runs 4th, believe it or not, on Nothing Like a Dane, and you're there on the mighty Hutchi. This is absolutely incredible as they go across the line. Octagonal, Saintly, Falante, Nothing Like a Dane. Darren, they don't get any better than these 4.
No, there was a stellar year, and you've got to remember that the Tancred or the Mercedes that Hutchi won, he won that a week before the Derby. He won the Rosehill Guineas. He butted up in the tank in the Mercedes, and then he went on to win the Derby. Saintly did exactly the same, but he was just the more seasoned horse. He was out on his feet on the home corner. Because he put so much effort into his races. He put his heart and soul into it. He was out on his feet on the home corner, but he dug when he had to. And Shane rode Ocky, as a 3-year-old in the Cox Plate and won on him, and I think he won a Chipping Norton on him. He won the Australian Cup. So, he and went at Tankford. He was a very, very unique horse. And you just don't see horses as tough as that in this day and age.
Darren, why he won was because we made him win. You were the same. You had to make him. In today's racing, he wouldn't be able to win these races, Darren.
100%.
Why is that? Explain that to us.
Well, you had to use the stick and really get up him and hit him and make him do it. And he wanted it. He wanted to win that horse. You'd be hitting him and he would you could feel him stretch underneath you, and he would just take a bit bigger stride, a bit bigger. But if you didn't hit him and get up him, he wouldn't go. He just wouldn't go. So that's why he went for Darren and he went for myself, because we made him, and he had the biggest heart, didn't he, Darren? And when he'd get in a finish, he always seemed to know where that post was, just on the line.
Yeah, but it was eerie riding him, because you're always on the odds that you had to overcome a lot of adversity before you got to, say, the 100-metre mark, because you didn't know, and they had to go quick enough in a race. And remember, Billy riding him one that day there in the Chipping Norton, and they walked in the race, and he took off and ran the last half mile in 46 and caught everyone napping. He had it there, but you had to really ask him for it.
So Octagonal Beadman, Saintly Larry Cassidy, Volante Mick Didman, Nothing Like a Day, and Shane Dye. What a first four.
I'll tell you something here, though, Richo. I rode both when they were 3-year-olds, and Nothing Like a Dane was a better horse than Octagonal. But Nothing Like a Dane had his heart broken in the Australian Cup and was never the same. He went down there second up. I beat Octagonal in the Hobart Full Stakes first up over 1,400 metres, fair and square. And, of course, he beat him in the Derby, but he was unlucky in the Derby, Octagonal, so there wasn't a lot between them. But then he went to Australia as a 3-year-old, second up 2,000 metres in the Australian Cup, and he ran fit. I led on him that day, and it broke his heart. He was never the same horse ever again.
Ocky was placed in a golden slipper. He was just absolutely incredible. Darren Beadman won on Octagonal. Head turner Fumicino. Shane Dye won the Derby on Ebony Grove.
I beat and followed Darren that year. We were back last and second last, and I said, I'm just going to follow Darren. Remember that? We were about 25 lengths last, weren't we?
No, I had a fall 12 years ago, mate. Those sort of things just skip my mind.
I'll remind you, you were riding down a filly for Bard, I think it was, and it was...
And it's called the Nendry. It was called the Nendry.
Nendry or something, yeah. We're about 25 lengths off the pace. And I said, shit, we're a long way back, but I'm following the best jockey. I'll just follow him. He knows where he's going.
In all seriousness, the memory of both of these legends of the turf and the amount they recall in races and times that Darren's mentioned is quite remarkable. But this year's Derby, Darren, what's your take on this year's? It's always a great race. What wins it this year?
Yeah, look, it's like we've got probably the second favourite in the race, Pericles Godolphin, and he went into the Rosehill Guineas. I think the Rosehill Guineas race is always a good lead up to the race. Still think there's a little bit of a question mark with him with a mile and a half, but if he can have a soft run in the race, he's drawn well to be able to do that, and James can put him to sleep. We put earmuffs on him to settle him down. He really ran half his race before the Rosehill Guineas, but I think he's got the class to beat them, and he's had that. As much as I don't like the VRC Derby over 2,500 metres, it might have been a blessing him running in it to season him up for this race, but I think Rogie Sauce, he's in great form. Rogie, great trainer of stayers, and he never shies away from the big occasion, and he's drawn a little bit awkward, but he's the type of horse that can, he'll be strong at the finish. So you need a horse that I think that he is a true mile and a half up.
Yeah, and Rogie, of course, trained Ebony Grove when Shane rode to victory in this race. Shane, do Do you tend to put advantage on those coming out of a New Zealand derby, or do you like ones coming through Australia and Rosehill Guineas and the like?
Every year's different, but that horse, the Australians underrate the New Zealand horses. That horse last week in the Fillies race, Crown Nest, couldn't get beat. It had 100 yards on them and they bet 230, 240, which was just ridiculous. It should have been $1.40. So Australians get the prices wrong with the New Zealand horses. It happens all the time. They underrate them. There's a horse in there that's a dead set stayer, and I don't know the weather forecast, but it's a wet track. It actually was a better run than Sharp and Smart in the Derby, called Mark Twain. It'll be back near last, and it's one paced. It wants 2 miles now, but if it's a wet track, it'll keep coming and it won't stop. And it's the one to beat if it's wet.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a really big run, wasn't it? Andalus was good as well. The other unique feature of them in this Doncaster Mile, Shane, you were able to win it back-to-back, one at 25 to 1 and one at 40 to 1. But then Darren Beadman, that was Magic Flute and also Like an Arms, but Darren Beadman was able to win on the great Superimpose. Darren, what makes this Doncaster Mile, what makes that race just so unique?
I think it's changed, especially over the latter years, that I think the depth of horses that back then, it was like, I think Superimpose carried 59.5 to win a Doncaster, was around about that mark. So he carried above weight for age, but like you look at the top weight this year, like they're underweight for age. So it has changed, in the latter years. But I think, the Randwick Mile, it's very testing, a lot of runners, a handicap system, and there's so many variables in the race, and it's a good horse. Like good horses just win it. So I think that it's 3-year-olds have got a great record in it. So it's open. It's a race that opens to everyone.
And you'll saddle up a 3-year-old by the name of Golden Mile for Godolphin. How bizarre is it legging up Zach Lloyd? We've just referenced the fact that you were following Jeff Lloyd in a race. Incredible. What's it like? And he looks to be a great young talent.
Yes, he's coming along nicely. He's I thought he was getting a little bit ahead of his time, probably 3 months ago, and he was just getting a little bit too confident, and he just was trying to get there before the horse was getting there. So we've done a lot of work with him, and trying to harness his enthusiasm. But he's a good young kid. He's got a good race brain on him. Can ride very light, and that's going to be one of his major assets. And having the opportunity to ride in a Doncaster, for the stable for Godolphin, one of the powerhouses of world racing, and he's a realistic chance. Like I know he's about 25 to 1, but he did win a Caulfield Guineas. He's run over the mile in the Calendar Presnell, which was the Villiers. So he's run against older horses. He's got form against older horses, and he handles all conditions. I think he's a very live chance, and I think he's got to have a cool head. That's what wins Doncasters. The rider's got to have a cool head.
Darren, obviously you mentioned Godolphin and the powerhouse that they are, and this meeting being simulcast in Hong Kong, one of the shorter price favourites of the day will probably be Cylinder in the 2-year-olds. What did you make of Cylinder's chances?
Look, he is a really natural 2-year-old in the sense that you watch him before the race, he'll stand there with his leg resting, he'll be asleep in the stalls, he just conserves energy, he's tough. Like when he went to Melbourne at Caulfield and hit the front of the gates and had a busted jaw and broken teeth, and still was an unlucky second in the race down there. His win, his win in the Todman, I thought was, he showed his superiority and his class there. It was just obviously, Ryan Moore polished in the slipper and on Sherbo, and he just stalked us every way, and he just was good late and fresh. But he's 7 furlongs, I don't think is going to pose any problems to him. He's drawn a soft gate, and I think there was probably still a little improvement there going into the slipper. So I think that'll help him.
We won't keep you too much longer, but some of these international riders come into Sydney to ride it adds to the whole carnival. You must just, what's your take on it anyway? Joe Moreira, we got Zach coming down and some big names.
Yeah, no, it's like the Easter Carnival was always, one of my, it's my favourite carnival because, I was apprenticed in Sydney and, to be there at headquarters at Randwick and it's all changed, the Derby, the Doncaster, and, they've changed some of these races around, but you can just feel the aura and the atmosphere when you do walk in there on race day. So I'm being on the other side of the fence, and it's actually quite invigorating to be able to be part of it and get the, when Winks was running there, and I remember I've never gone down to the 300-metre mark to watch a horse, but I went out of my way to go and watch Winks come past me there when she won there and over the carnival, and it's Randwick. I love it the way it is now, the way that, the whole, all the stands and all the marquees, and it's very, very, very top class, top shelf.
We would love, I know you're pushed for time, mate. We would love to get you back on the show and delve more into your incredible career because I think that our audience would absolutely love it. Can I just say, mate, you're looking so healthy and happy. How's life? How are you balancing, family life and Godolphin? Everything seems to be going well in your life.
Yeah, no, really, really, I just said enjoying life and, I've been trying to sort of lose a few pounds. I sort of hit the, I was hitting the skulls a bit heavy there. So I've really tried to sort of concentrate. I actually feel better for it. And working for Godolphin, is a dream come true in a sense. A good transition from riding because you're dealing with, beautifully bred and conditioned horses and be part of that operation. Just trials and on race day and heading it up there, it's just the perfect position to be in.
We've got the big international meeting coming up in Hong Kong. This TJ Smith, will Lofty Strike, I know, is one that's considering. Agon's going to go for the mile. Anything out of the TJ might head that way?
I think Lofty Strike's a good chance, and there's a chance if it rains on the day that they won't run, I don't think.
Right.
So that's a big factor. But he's a very talented sprinter. But that sprint race, Darren, that's just before you go. That's something pretty special this year. And, of course, you've got In Secret, she's got to have a great chance.
Yeah, definitely. She loves Randwick. She's won there. Obviously, her win in the Coolmore and then the Newmarket under handicap conditions. She's got obviously weight for age, but, the 3-year-old fieldies like Cool and Gaddis showed what, 3-year-olds can do at weight for age against that grade when she won down the straight. So I think that if she's ever going to sort of take on, I think it's a prime time for her to be able to taking on the likes of the seasoned horses like Nature Strip and Private Eye and horses of that nature and Giga Kick, who've all had hard, tough runs in big races. Well, she proved, what she could do when she did run against those horses in the Newmarket. And, I think the way that she's drawn a little bit sticky, but she does like to be rested, as you did see when Nash won on her. Like, if you can save her for a great burst the last 250 metres, she's got a great turn of foot. So if they go quick up front, she's going to be very strong late.
Oh, it's going to be so good, mate. It's simulcast in Hong Kong. Darren, please promise us that you'll come back and we can delve more into your career when you've got more time.
No, pleasure. Great being on the show, fellas.
Brilliant to catch up with the one and only Darren Beadman, our star power guest. Let's talk global racing, and the World Pool covered the terrific meeting at Meydan for Dubai World Cup, and we saw some outstanding performances, Hutch. I mean, the moment of the day just had to be the performance of Equinox in the Golden Shaheen.
And noticed that as the moment of the day. So it's a great initiative, isn't it, for the World Pool, giving the winning groom
that's brilliant
40,000 Hong Kong dollars, a memorable moment, as was the performance. What sort of win was this? I tell you what, I I don't know. Nothing will get close to him. This is one for the ages, this performance, Shane. I mean, you don't do this to a quality field unless you are a serious racehorse, a runner-up in the Japanese Derby, winner of the Rima Kinan. He went across in the bottle. I think he ran 22-1 his final 400, Shane.
But just have a look at him. He looks so strong. His stride, he's powerful. They're just in a different class, these horses, to ours. The colts and the stallions, they never galled them. And the big, the strong, but his stride on him, he was so impressive, Clint. He just looks a real superstar.
So the Whirlpool meeting, just looking at our stats, turnover of 315 million Hong Kong dollars. So the Whirlpool is fantastic, and it is only going to get stronger.
Yeah, it will get stronger. And I thought what was good, I did read a piece on socials recently, maybe we'll put it up on another show, but just the relative odds as well. The odds were really good compared to a lot of fixed operators as well.
Yeah.
So you can sort of get on, but
you can get on. You can have a bet.
You can have a bet, but you're also being quite well rewarded in terms of the odds of them. But I think the shorter price ones, if they're odds on or something, then it's probably give or take. It's sort of a bit tit for tat, but certainly pool worth betting in.
And talking about the Japanese horses, we go to the Dubai World Cup, and once again they continue what was an incredible night.
Yeah, they're just going to dominate. I mean, what we've seen in recent years, obviously they love to travel, the Japanese. They can only do it more as they taste more and more success, and it's obviously from years of buying the best, breeding with the best, and the rest of the world's probably got to pick their socks up if they're going to be competitive, and it's hard to see in the short term how they can turn things around.
Hey, so one thing we do know, Shane, we've seen it time and time again, when the Japanese travel, they're really competitive. And when Australia takes their sprinters around the world,
very competitive.
Then they're competitive. The astrologist, let's be honest, the astrologist is a Group 1 competitive sprinter in Australia, but he's a B grader. And he was uber competitive there, just gets knocked off.
Yeah, great run. Fantastic. I think he ran to his best form. He's super consistent. Well done to the connections. Well done to all. And I think he ran to his, he's obviously travelled well. Well done to the Corstons team and all the connections. I said as much in a recent tweet, and I think one of the ownership group might have got a bit upset with me. But my point was the fact that he isn't probably in that top line or echelon of sprinters, but if we took over our top liners, we'd be winning a lot of those Group 1s.
Well, you're only talking facts. I mean, the reality is if Australia listed their top 10 sprinters, we'll just have a look at that TJ Smith field, and that's the group of them, isn't it?
Yes,
so,
correct.
And the astrologist, if he was in the TJ Smith, would be 30-1.
And I would go as far to say I think it's really good placement, and I'm surprised.
Brilliant.
I'm surprised, Shane, more of them don't do it because we talk. I mean, I know, and even in Australia, they say, the crown and glory for Nature Strip was going to England, winning by 5. I mean, English sprinters it's harder to win a lot of races here by far than it is to go to England and win by 5. Yes, you've got the travel, but their sprinters aren't in the same league as ours. That's just as simple as that. We've seen it year on year out in Hong Kong when they come over and they get beat up quite convincingly.
It's vice versa. We've got the best sprinters by a long way. They have the best stayers. By a long way, better than ours. And then, of course, you got the Japanese. Although I will say that the Japanese sprinters are pretty good, Clint. Their good ones measure up to our good ones. But anywhere else they don't. Like Europe just doesn't measure up.
They've had a couple. Couple. Lord Canaloa was one that was
serious.
Well, seriously good. We had a competition and a show on racing.com, and they asked Hutch to be the host one week to name his top 10 sprinters. And Lorne Canaloa was number 1. And you ruffled a few feathers like you did the other night on Twitter.
I did. Well, I did because I had Black Caviar in second, Shane. But a lot of it's where you're from as well. I mean, when I come back now and I see you see what she actually managed to achieve, it's pretty amazing. But it was more that single performance when he won in Hong Kong. I think he beat 9 Group 1 horses. He didn't beat them. He absolutely annihilated them, and which is what she did all the time. But would have been a great race. And at that time, Rich, I'll tell you, they were actually thinking of meeting her as well, and they were very close to take. They said, we're not worried about her. We'll take her on. What a race that would have been.
Richo, I think that Kim Kelly, I don't know whether you were on the show that day or not because you're away that often. I've lost track of it. But he said that Lord Kalaloa was the best sprinter and best winner he's seen, if I remember correctly.
Apparently, Darren Beadman wants to be our regular third member of this team.
And I'll tell you something else. I bet you he wouldn't charge as much as me either. So take it. Go for it, mate.
I was available last week. There was a communication breakdown. I want that noted in the record somewhere. Somewhere, if we do have a record, wherever it is. Hey, let's launch into finding some winners on Sunday. We're racing at Sha Tin on Sunday. And Hutch, let's start in race number 3. It's a small but competitive field. Zach Purton's on California 10. 8 runners in the race.
Yeah, one of the better quality races of the day. Of course, this weekend, they're sort of more moderate, class races. That won't stop the turnover. It'll be strong as usual. And there'll be 10 winners there as well. This is the best quality race in terms of their official rating in Hong Kong. And it's an interesting one. I mean, we've got horses that come out of a lot of the same form races, including this one here that, of course, Beauty Eternal won, but you've got Spirited Express in this race. He came from back. There wasn't much between him, California 10 out wide, who came from back in the field, and All for St. Paul's. But Shane, in this race, there wasn't much between them, but All for St. Paul's got softened up in the lead. And I think the interesting thing on the weekend is he might get a lot softer lead in this race. And I think that being the case, it might sort of suit him as well. So I'd probably thinking California 10 will be the most popular in the market. I'm hoping he comes up short because I think both All for St. Paul's and Spirited Express, you could make a good case that they could win the race.
Yeah, he's on his mark, All for St. Paul's, but he gets his chance here because it's not an overly strong race and nothing stands out. And if it's a non-pace track, he's always a chance. I'm just looking at it now. Boombra's horse of John Science is struggling, looking great or go forward. Amazing Victory or box seat just in behind. Ching Chang Prince could be anywhere. You wouldn't know what they'd do with him. But yeah, he's going to get a soft lead looking at that, Clint, and he'll give a good sight. Spirit Express is racing well. Might race a little bit closer from gate 4.
I think he will, and it's a tricky gate for looking great. I thought that Alexi probably be either 3 back, 1 off, or maybe 1-1, depending on what transpires early. But the good thing with Spirited Express, I mean, he did run the third best. He's run since that race behind Beauty Eternal. Of course, he ran behind Champion Dragon. It was a bit of a sit and sprint. His late sectionals were great. He's ready to win one, Spirited Express, and he's been a reasonable price at his last couple. So it's an interesting race, but I think that at this point in time, Richo, All for St. Paul's would be the main one I'd be interested in playing over Spirited Express.
Okay, well, then we move to race number 8. Who caught your eye in this Class 3, 1,400 metres?
There's a couple of good bets later in the day. Here's my market, and I'll be having, Choo Chow Spirit's the one that we've made in our SID file, and he's ready to win, and G's found a nice race. And it's interesting, well, of course, Zach has noticed his runs as well, and now he gets on board. Not only that, do we get that with, of course, Choo Chow Spirit. We get the cheek pieces going on, which is the winkers in Australia. When this horse raced for Tony McAvoy in Australia, he had some good form and he was lightly raced and he had the winkers on. So that's the real positive. Right. Look, both runs have been great. Zach won this race, of course, on Red Lion, but he's ready to go now. Third run of the preparation, sticks to 1,400 metres. His 2 runs have been fantastic. He's got a great turn of foot. He actually had form behind See You in Heaven in Australia. I think when he ran second in might have been the Size in South Australia.
Yeah. She's a good filly.
And she's come out and run well in the Vanity, and she's got great form. So I don't know what your thoughts on this race. I got him marked short, Shane. I think this is a very nice race for him. He gets back a little bit. I'm hoping there's good enough speed, but I've got him clearly on top in this race. I don't think there's a lot to this race.
He'll run very well. Probably should win the race. Golden Auntie was just a bit aggressive last start when it led. It'll go better if he takes a sit on it. It's not the worst. And the other one, Not Unusual Star, is racing well, ran well last start with not much luck, but I'd go Choo Chow Spirit from the bottom one. Actually, the 5 went all right the other day, Clint.
Yeah, he did. Beto. He's another South Australian.
His trials were really bad.
Yeah, no, he ran better on race day, didn't he? And I thought he closed off well, so he's also from South Australia as well, and he ran okay. I've sort of got him kept safe-ish in the market. But the other one, Golden Artie, I wanted to ask you about him because we liked him last time out, of course, and they used different tactics because a couple of starts prior, they'd given him a bit of a chance. He should have won the other day when he led. He got very soft sections. I still can't get my head around what ran wrong. Do you think he's one of those horses and you get the odd one that just doesn't like that role of leading? He's not a
leader,
chaser.
He's not a leader. He's better off in behind. You know, horses are leads. Some are leaders, some aren't. He's not. He's better in behind. He had every chance the other day because they didn't go fast. They never run I think they ran a 22.6 early on, and then after that he backed it off. It wasn't D'Souza rode him. He never did anything wrong on him, and he didn't go too fast at all. So I'm not criticising one bit, but I think he'll be better in behind.
Yeah, I agree, because he actually went slower leading than he did running in 10th position the other day. That's how the difference in the sort of pace over position angle. So maybe he's just one of those horses that doesn't leading, but I'll keep him safe.
And just you had your ratings there and your prices. $2.18 you had for the favourite and $8.85. What price did you rate my boy, the People's Champ, the mighty Cape Breton?
You know what's interesting about him? I had a good look at him because he has form around.
I know.
And in Australia, I think he beat the favourite, Choo Chow Spirit.
So he started his Hong Kong campaign at about 101, ran third when we spoke about him. And then ever since then, he's gone 9th, 8th, 14th and 12th. That's when you now need to follow him.
Richo, when he ran third, it's a very bad form race.
Yeah.
They went 2,000 miles an hour.
He's like some of us, Shane, isn't he? That some travel to Hong Kong and go well and some don't. That's just the way it goes. You know, some of them bring their A form and some don't.
No,
At the moment,
that's his stock standard form. Don't you worry.
Okay, in and out.
Yeah. Race number 9. How did you assess this? 1,200 metres.
Got another horse I'm very keen on the day. And this will be, I'm hoping that he's a reasonable price and I'm hoping I can be on him. And it's a horse by the name of Wonder Kit.
Ooh.
He has been
horse number 10.
So that's race 9, number 10. His forms reads really well. And I think when we go back through it, like he's a really hard one to knock. He stands out to be popular. I know he's been $14, $14, $35. He was $35 against Beauty Eternal. When you go back and watch that race, he should have gone a lot closer. This is him when he was beaten by Golden Express. As we said, this was a high rating race for me. They went quick. He stuck to his guns really well. He's coming along so nicely, this horse, and he should be ready to peak. He's got other form around that run, 2 back around Goko, winning run well during the week. Supreme Lucky comes out of that race. He gets the right map. He's got the right numbers. I'm very keen on him. I think Wonder Kid will take a lot of beating. Shane, what did you like in the 9th race?
2-horse race. Looking at this.
Yep.
Wonder Kid and Brave Dreams. The thing with the Brave Dreams run is racing really well, and he handled Class 3 last start after winning in Class 4. The thing in this, looking at this race, naturally we're doing the show early, so I haven't put a lot of work in yet. But in this race, there's Hero Star can lead, Decisive 12 might go forward, Super Fortune always leads, Bundled Charm from 2 box seat with Zach on for sure. Show Respect's got pace. There's quite a bit of pace, Clint, so that could suit Brave Dreams also. But no, I wouldn't disagree with you with Wonder Kid. All of his runs have been good, and I would have him from Brave Dreams.
Yeah, Wonder Kid would be hard to beat. Bundle of Charm's an interesting one because we've been against him quite a bit this season. And he hasn't let us down from that point of view. But he did run a little bit. Well, he was going to figure in the finish last start. Ryan went inside and instead of outside. One of the few errors we see Ryan Moore make. But he went for a run back to, well, there wasn't really a run there. But anyway, the horse got badly held up. And I don't think he would have won, but he would have finished a lot closer. Anyway, Zach obviously saw that, rung for the ride, and he gets a good run. But a lot of pressure in the race. So it's an interesting setup. But he could be an improver. But the market will be all over him because Zach's on him. But I'm hoping that's the case, Richo, because I'll be happily be on Wonder Kid.
So he's your best bet of the day.
Can I just say something about Bundle of Charm? Now, he's one of the worst rated horses I've ever seen in the history of Hong Kong racing. I think I've got to get this right just to be sure. He's had 8 starts this season, right? He started the season on 72, correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I was wrong. He's had 9 starts. He's had 1 placing for a week third when he started $2.50. He started the season on 72. Guess what he's on? 70. It's ridiculous. He's so badly rated, that horse, it's not funny. So he's come down 2 points for 8 unplaced runs and 1/3 where he was very weak.
What should he have come down?
Oh, a lot more. He should be back to... See, he won off 58 and he put him up 14, which was too much. Zach tested him that day and he won by 5 lengths. So he got 14 at the end of last season. He come back and he just hasn't gone on with it because he's too high and he's not on his mark. Now, what's his mark? I don't know, but it's definitely not 72 because he's had that many goes at it and he can't win off it. He's got to, when you've had 9 runs in a season for 1/3 and you drop 2 points, there's a problem.
Yeah, that's not right. Normally, Richo, what they do if they've had a couple of runs and they haven't run a place, or after they're winning, they give them 2, but then they drop 2 points per run. So you could argue that he should be mid-60s. A minimum low 60s.
Yeah,
but I'm not saying he can't win off this rating. Right, he probably can given the right circumstances. I'm just saying he's shocking the rating for what he's done this year. Just shocking.
It's a great point you raised. Is your best bet race 9?
We're just going to stick to the 2 main bets. I think they're both great chances. Choo Spirit in race 8, Wonder Kit race 9. The 2 legs of the treble in Hong Kong. They've been the legs of the quaddie. You can have one of your multis, Richo, your system 2-3s that you love to throw one in from.
They were successful.
What were you with in Australia, by the way? What was your tip in? What was your best of the Group 1s in Sydney?
Well, you're not paying me enough for that.
Richo, you've been around me too long now. You're starting to sound like me.
You're going to have to talk to my manager, RS Dye, for that sort of stuff. Shane, what's your best?
Oh, geez. I'll tell you what, it's a Thursday night here we're filming this.
I know you're underprepared.
Okay, race 7, June Planet. He's crying out for 1,400. He gets 1,400. And let's just have a quick look.
So that's race 7, number 5 in June Planet. Race 7.
I haven't done this race, so just give me a second. I'll screen through it. There's not many in form in this race. Race 5, number 1, Dream Pursuer. He's dropping in class, and he had a trial the other day, which was good at Happy Valley, and his runs haven't been too bad. His last run was very good in a very strong race, Golden Express's race. And he's dropping to class 4 from class 3. But I haven't looked at the race and done the form in it, but I'm just scrolling down and there's not many in form in that race.
Okay, so that is race 5, number 1 in Dream Pursuit. So
nothing from Sydney from you. Nothing. You're giving us nothing.
There is a horse running in the Doncaster who's having his first start and he's from Europe, and there has not been a better performer at Canterbury and in trials than Duke de Sessa, and you can get around 25 to 1. Kieran Maher trains. Remember who told you?
I'll give you one for the Derby, boys, and I mentioned it before. Now, I don't know. Does anyone know the forecast for rain in Sydney? It's been...
No, it's going to be nice and sunny. I've been there during the week, Shane. A little light rain on Tuesday, and also Wednesday morning has cleared, and it'll be nice and sunny. We'll be on a soft 5 to 6.
Oh, well, it is rain affected. If it's a fast run derby, and I don't know the form, I don't do it, so I don't know how the pace is going to be. But if they go along in the derby and the track's rain affected, I'm telling you now, Mark Twain will run very, very well. He's just a dead set stayer who will not stop. And at the furlong, he'll be... See, he's a horse who needs the stick, right? If you rode him, you would use it on him at the 600 metres to get him going. He's like octagonal from the videos I was watching the other day of him. But you can't do it, so he won't get wound up until about the 100 metres and he'll be running on strongly.
I think the first 4 across the line in that New Zealand Derby will be really, really competitive.
Yeah.
Stroke of Luck was the Australian horse who was really unlucky last start. He might be able to improve for John O'Shea and Aussie Tom Mark one. Hutchbuster, always brilliant, mate.
Thank you, and we'll look forward to... We've got some good racing next weekend as well.
And absolutely brilliant to catch up with Darren Beadman, and we promise our audience we will get him back on for a longer chat where Darren and Billy Idol can go toe-to-toe.
Fingers.
A little more. Fingers. Hey, Fingers. Billy, it's been good, my friend.
Sorry, what?
He called you Fingers and also Billy Idol. Which one's your favourite out of those?
Oh, mate, do you think I really care? I never cared about much of my life like that. It is what it is. Whatever you want to call me, Richo, you can call me. But I'll tell you something now. I used to like the Golden Boy. That sounded good. The Golden Boy.
Beautiful. Beautiful work, Golden Boy, on behalf of...
I'm not one anymore. Look how old I am. Jesus,
Golden
Richo,
Boy,
that was in my
Silver
day,
Boy,
that one, the Golden
Bronze
Boy.
Boy. Gold, silver, and bronze boys saying goodbye to you from the Triple Trio.